So today we're going to take a look at a new Action JavaScript to expose the geolocation object. My name's Bob Moore and I'll be taking you through this. The Geolocation API lets us get to geographical information associated with the browser itself. So obviously on a mobile device this is important. You might want to have a button that somebody clicks to denote a particular location when they say arrive at a service location or something like that. The spec is drawn up by the W3C. You can look at the Geolocation API at this website here. Mozilla's got a nice document on geolocation also. The API itself, the user has to authorize use of the geolocation information, so it's important to know that. The API is agnostic of the underlying location information, so common sources are GPS, which you'd have on a mobile device, and location that's inferred from network signals like IP addresses and RFID, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, MAC addresses, router MAC addresses, GSM, CDMA, cell IDs, and so on. And there isn't a guarantee that the API is always going to return the actual device location. An important thing to remember is that the data retrieval is asynchronous. So you might make a call to get some location information. Maybe you want to put it into a grid or a dialog, and it's not necessarily going to come back right away. So you need to be aware of that. The geolocation object in Alpha 5 version 11 is referenced either through the dialog.object placeholder or the grid.object placeholder. And the object properties that are exposed include accuracy, which is a percentage. So if it's 100, it's 100% accurate of the location. You will only see that with a GPS device, I would assume. Altitude in meters, altitude accuracy, heading, latitude, longitude, speed, and there's also a timestamp. If you wanted to reference, say, the latitude or the longitude within your JavaScript, you do it like this. So here we're specifying a var of lat. We're using the dialog object placeholder. You would use either that or a grid.object placeholder. And we're just pulling up the latitude and the longitude here. The object methods that are important to you are the dialog or grid object geolocation.clearWatch method. There are basically two things that you can do with the Geolocation API. One is a one-shot deal, get me the current location, and the other is to watch the location. And what will happen then is, as the location changes, the geolocation object information is updated. If you're using the watch, you've got to make sure that you clear it out at some point. These are the Action JavaScript geolocation properties that we're going to see in the builder. You have an option to map the fields to the retrieved geolocation data. You have an option to update the data on location change. You can specify an optional callback function. So when the data is retrieved, you can specify any JavaScript function you want to fire. And we'll take a look at that. You can set the maximum age of a cached geolocation object. So by default, you're going to cache the geolocation, and this is set at 30 seconds. This is in milliseconds, so it's 30,000 is the default. And you can also set the timeout. So this is set by default at 15 seconds, but can be anything you'd like. So let's take a look at this thing in action. So here we've got a dialog component, a simple dialog component with a couple of text fields, a date field, and the lat long fields here, and a button. Currently when we click on the button, nothing happens. So let's go to design, and let's go to this button, and the onClick event. We're going to add a new action. We'll scroll on down, grab the geolocation functions. We're going to set the fields in the dialog to the return values. So we're going to grab the latitude and the longitude and say OK. We're going to leave the rest of the defaults. We don't need anything there. Go ahead and save that. Let's take a look at it in live preview and see what it does. So in this case we've got this form here, and we're going to hit this button, and instantly we got back the latitude and longitude from the geolocation object. Internet Explorer didn't prompt me for it didn't give me a warning that the browser wanted to access this information because I had already authorized it to do that. But let's go take a look at Firefox, and Firefox will prompt when this occurs. So here we are in Firefox. I'm going to go ahead, and sure enough, it says, localhost wants to know your location. Now I'm going to say, okay, share it, and we'll see the values come up at some point. Now, Firefox uses Google location services to get that information. So, and you notice I have a stop tracking button here. Right now, I'm going to show you how we brought that up and what that's all about. So let's go back to design, because I have two buttons here. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and modify this on click event. So let's go to edit actions, and we've got our property map all set. I'm going to say, yeah, go ahead and update the data on location change. And if we're on a mobile device, this would constantly update as I moved around. Even on a laptop, I mean, if you were to move out to a different customer site or whatever, it would be different. I'm going to show you how to use a callback function too. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and we're going to use the show location JavaScript function. Just an FYI, if you want to go ahead and put the parens in and the semicolon, which would be proper JavaScript, you can go ahead and do that, or you can leave it off. The builder will trap that. I'm going to say OK here, and let's go ahead and save that. Now, the reason that those buttons changed before is there's a show hide expression that says if lat equals empty string, go ahead and show it. And on the stop tracking button, you'll notice if lat is greater than the empty string, then it's going to go ahead and show it. Now let's look at the JavaScript associated with the stop tracking button. So here we've got, we're calling the geolocation object's clear watch method. So that will stop the constant looking for the current location. So here we're using the dialog object placeholder. If we were in a grid, it would be grid.object. So you just need to know about that. And here we're going to clear out these values for the lat long, just set them to null string, and we're going to pop up an alert that says geolocation watch terminated. So this is what's going to happen when we click on that button. So let's go ahead and save that. So that's our stop tracking button. Now I want to show you the JavaScript associated with the callback, and that's right here. That is our show location function. And so what we're doing is we're setting two JavaScript variables, lat and lon, and we're filling those in with the data that's coming from the geolocation object, the latitude and the longitude. And all of the different properties that are available are listed right up here. We've gone through that in a previous video. Geolocation.accuracy.altitude, altitude accuracy, .heading, .latitude, .longitude, .speed, and .timestamp. Now, not all of those are always going to be filled in. For example, we're stationary here. We're pulling the lat lon from a location service somewhere, so we don't really have a heading, and we don't have a speed, and it doesn't know our altitude. So these will either be null, or they'll just be empty strings. There'll just be nothing in there. So anyway, after we've gotten these two variables here, we're going to pop up an alert box. So in the alert here, what we're going to do is we're going to show text that will show the latitude, longitude, drop in a new line, and then we'll show the values associated with lat lon. And that's going to happen as a callback when the geolocation object is populated. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at this in live preview. So we go ahead and get location. There's the callback that fired once that latitude and longitude were acquired. And here we see lat lon, and that's appropriate. Go ahead and close that out. And then we've got our stop tracking button now. So when I go ahead and click on that, that's going to stop the tracking. So now that you'll see geolocation watch position has been terminated. And internally what's happened there is we've actually destroyed the object that's utilized for the watch event there. So just so you know about that. So that should be a good enough overview for you so you can get started on this if you need it. I think you'll find it quite helpful. Thanks so much.